show you in the social order, in the order of the machine that was constituted in World War II. Of course, I'm extremely conscious, particularly with reference to this last interview, that these things are extremely ambiguous. And I do love von Forster's heraldic symbol of the regal dragons fighting each other's tails. It does seem that every break in the social order is then inversed by the succeeding order of power to become its opposite. And in my own work, I've gone into some detail about the ways that, in particular, radical constructivism and the type of thinking that's developed at the Santa Fe Institute, complexity theory, has been used to generate the wide open spaces, the parallel universes of financial speculation, as well as the new machine systems of artificial intelligence, which are now coming together as the swarm intelligence of drones, the weapon of the current war in Afghanistan. So I don't feel particularly naive about these things, but I think there's something extremely interesting about what people do ethically at the moment of greatest tension in society, when it's necessary to break up an order, when it's necessary to introduce different kinds of disorder, even if you can't control the effects in subsequent periods of that. What remains compelling is the existential force of these political, artistic, and philosophical ruptures, and their power to expose society to its blind spots or double blinds. In 1947, the year of to have done with the judgment of God, Artaud wrote this. He said, "Today's unconscious is filled to bursting. People can't stand it anymore, carrying inside them something they endlessly palpitate and repress because they were forbidden to do it, to speak about it, and to show it. And the insider cops who've been pushing life off the edge for eternities without anyone knowing, but who claim it is their right to do so alone, have orders to detour into theater, cinema, and microphones like holy masses, a certain thing which I was interned for 9 years for trying to say, and which I will say." Artaud wrote that. In their text on the body without organs, the Luzin Guattari write, "Even if Artaud did not succeed for himself, it's certain that through him something has succeeded for us all." And I think they were clearly right about that. They express it themselves, and they brought that to a higher order of expressive reality and of philosophical reality in the Anti-Oedipus, and especially in 1,000 Plateaus. But the thing that I do want to say is that nothing succeeds forever. And I think that basically those solutions have now been exhausted. The insider cops are back, and there's a new crisis on the horizons as far as I can see. And so I think what's interesting is not the formulas and the gestures that come out of the 60s and 70s, but rather the ethics of making a pathway through chaos. So that's what I have to say.
Let there be chaos, so I have more fun and more ideas. You know, there was one when I tried in America to teach and ask, is there any American philosopher? And I could not find any. So I found at least the chaos theory, which at this time, also Mandelbaum, and they had this, that what looks like a chaos is actually an order you can only see after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So in somehow you could tell your story kind of differently, because that's what is actually at the core of everything, change, or dynamic, as Aristotle before. Interpretation, there is dynamic. And this dynamic will never stop.
Yes, of course.
And our interpretation of that will change. Sometimes we try to keep and say, okay, but that's so good, let's keep it for a while. You know, and other times, oh, it's so bad, let's destroy it. You know, but in fact, we in both cases react generally to the change itself. So it is good if you live in a time like I did when we start to have, of course, the post-modern, you know, the time of criticism, everything was up to destroy. There was nothing sacred anymore, no taboos, which turned out at the end not so good, because what is left, as Baudrillard said, what are we going to do after the orgy of criticism? Nothing there. No. So far I think you convinced me that your work is important because of the close look, because you really make also your own story out of it. You select a few examples. Even people who have lived through this time have not seen so closely, and this people here who have not even been born yet, and that was the bad thing that you have been born. It would be better you have not been born. Schopenhauer could have told you. For you, this is the kind where you only see an echo of that, in your teachers and in literature, etc. But what is really the important question? You probably don't know, you have not Googled me, otherwise you would know that I'm the philosopher of artificial life, and the way you use artificial life is exactly the way I fight against since 20 years. Starting somehow with Marcuse, but also Heidegger and Marx as the two really important philosophers of technology, then Adorno and Marcuse as the ones who make it even clearer, the critique of instrumental technology. But was in 73 at the World Congress of Philosophy, by accident I ended up in the plenary session, was translated in 5 languages, and in German it was Heideggers Radikalkritik der Technik als gesellschaftlicher Handlungsentwurf.
Good.
Heidegger's radical criticism of technology as a blue pause for society.
Yes.
And that was the first time a philosopher took the ecological question as a philosophical question. And everyone came to me, especially the Marxists, and said, oh no, in our society we are humanists, there is no ecological problem. Huh? And then I told them, sorry, the Baltic Sea stinks too, it's not just the others. So there was a moment in which we learned to criticize the instrumental technology, in which a world like causality, even science, became a dirty world as that. And von Förster, who was kind of a scientist, but his constructivism was so extreme that it really bordered on an artistic element. This is not the case. The world is not what we are making out of it, right? Like this, Somehow, yes, the world needs us to be generated, but we are not the master of that. We're just a moment in it. But the main important thing on which I based my own philosophy on it was what the difference in Heidegger, which my dissertation was called Ereignistechnik. About the event, the Ereignis, ennonement, they have translated it in English, totally stupid translation, and technology together. Heidegger himself has not done that. He was still Gestell technology and framing the fix, everything is the same, nicht? And